Hey guys, it is April from Getting Hygge With It. Today I'm doing another Top 5 Wednesday video, and the theme of today's video is books or characters that you kind of feel betrayed by, and I have 5 that I want to recommend to you. So let's dive right in. The first character that I kind of felt let down by was Jane Steele. Now I loved Jane Steele. In this book, she is like a really feisty, headstrong girl who is living with her aunt and her really annoying cousin and has just had a crappy life. And she seems to periodically throughout her life just kill people just because they're jerks. And what I really like about her character is you kind of find yourself agreeing with who she's killing because they're not so nice and you're like, yeah, the world could do without that guy. But as the book goes on, she becomes more and more of a softie, and I kind of really liked the Jane at the beginning, who was just a badass. She was kind of scary in some ways, but really likable at the same time. I just wish that she had remained a bit more hardcore. The next person that I felt really betrayed by was Mr. Bennet in Pride and Prejudice. Now, this is a bit of a spoiler, so if you haven't read Pride and Prejudice, please walk away for a moment. After Lydia married Mr. Wickham and they came back home to visit, why didn't he just lose his mind on Mr. Wickham? Mr. Wickham had, tried to ruin his daughter. And yes, Lydia was a foolish girl, and Mr. Bennet had said that it was partly his fault, and honestly it was. But I don't understand why he didn't confront Mr. Wickham. Mrs. Bennet, you just knew, was just gonna say, Mr. Wickham is wonderful, and come and join the family, and it was always supposed to be like this, and she's just irrational and stupid. But Mr. Bennet was supposed to have a little more sense, and I just did not understand it. The next character that kind of disappointed me wasn't really much of a character at all. That's confusing. I'm talking about the Miniaturist in The Miniaturist. So this story follows a young girl who is married off, and she moves to her husband's home, which is like a falling down, kind of decrepit, enormous home. And her husband buys her this dollhouse, and she starts receiving these miniatures for her dollhouse, and they reflect what's going on in her life. I honestly wish that the Miniaturist would have come out of the woodwork, but I wish that they would have come out of the woodwork and been a bigger force. I kept waiting for that, and I was kind of disappointed that it never seemed to happen. Next is a book that I felt a little disappointed by. Sarah's Key follows 2 people. Sarah, who in 1942 is a little girl in France, and the French police start rounding up Jewish people. She is desperate to try and save her little brother, so she locks him in a closet and leaves, thinking that they'll be back that night, and they don't return back that night. So it follows her. It also follows Julia, who is an American journalist who's investigating this whole process of the French police rounding up these Jews, and their stories intertwine. Now, I liked the concept of the stories intertwining. However, I did not care for Julia at all. I found her a really weak character. There's a whole sideline about the issues that she's having in her marriage, and I honestly thought that entire storyline was unnecessary. I just really wanted to get back to Sarah. I didn't mind if there was a journalist trying to figure out how this whole thing happened and following her on the journey to discover that, but she just wasn't strong enough a character in comparison to Sarah to capture my attention, so I was really disappointed in that. Finally, I felt a little bit betrayed by Robert Neville in I Am Legend. Now, in this story, I Am Legend, Robert is the last living human on Earth. Everyone else has become a vampire, and you follow him trying to survive, essentially. And what I found frustrating about this was the characterization of women. In the evening, when he is locked in his home, he hears his neighbors calling out for him to come out because they know where he is and they want to kill him, essentially. But what I didn't like was time and time again, the women were way over-sexualized. At the beginning of the story, I really liked Robert Neville. I thought he was an interesting character. He drank a little too much, sure, but you know, you can't help but sympathize with the last man on earth. But the way that he would talk about the women outside who were scantily clad and trying to like lure him out, I just felt a little bit gross, and I wanted to like him more, and I wish that he would have just glossed over that. But I guess if you are the last man on earth, that means you're not ever going to be having sex again, so maybe he was just over-sexualizing the women because of that fact. I don't know. That said, I still love I Am Legend. I'm still a huge fan. It's still so creepy. I just wish that Robert Neville would have been a little more of a gentleman, even to female vampires. So those are all of the books and characters that I felt a little bit betrayed by. If you liked this video, please subscribe and comment below, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye!